Loud and clear.
Okay, great.
This meeting is being recorded.
My name is John C. I'm a food addict, and abstinence is the most important thing in my life today. So I was figuring what to talk about, talk about tonight. But you guys, most of you guys know practically nothing about my story. And I think I'm trying to impress that no matter how screwed up you think you are and how hopeless you are, there is an opportunity recovery in these rooms. And maybe my story might help you say, well, God, if he can do it, I can do it. Also, just a reminder, folks, whatever I say, the only thing I'm truly convinced of that I'm abstinent today is from God's grace. That's the only thing I know from certain. I can tell you how disciplined my food program is and all these other things. But no matter what I've done, I got in a relapse at one point in time in my life, and I felt God's the one that did it for me. So that's what I say. I might say something that offends some of you guys, or something that makes no sense. But whatever I say, just remember this, and what I say works for me. So what should I say? Well, first, I'll just give you a real quick detail to prove that I earned my seat in any 12-step recovery program. My top weight was 490 pounds. I say 490 pounds because that's what OptiFast, the guys, and they had scales back then, the fancy computer scales, but they only went up to 460 pounds. And they couldn't weigh me on there. So they sort of embarrassed me. They said, look, we need you to go to a meat packing plant, get weighed there. And I said, okay, I did it. So I went there, and they said I was 465. And then I went back over there, and they said, well, you've been doing OptiFast this is long, so we figure you're 490. I'm maintaining a 300 plus weight loss. My current weight's probably around 166 pounds. And I give God credit for all of this, because as I said, that's the only thing that makes any sense on me, because I got zero power. So, just a little bit about my background. See, my problem was I was a sick little kid, and morbid obesity is on my mom's side. There's no question about it. And I was a sick little kid, bedridden for 6 months. And guess what? My mom most definitely fed my addiction. She was a good old Italian woman, first generation in America. And that's what they did when you're sick. They fed you. And boy, she fed me. Guess what? I ate everything she gave me, no matter what. Even if it was crap, I still ate it because I just had to feel this thing. My problem was all my brothers and sisters had the same problem. We all had low self-esteem and all this thing, but they grew out of it. I was sick. I had crutches for 4 years, and I guess I use that as a sort of an excuse. Now I was sick. What do you expect? And I never really grew out of it. I just got progressively worse. And, my life growing up was basically hell, to be blunt about it. And by the way, I came to OA in August of 91. Actually, Joe, I know you longer than 25 years. Because guess what? If you were a guy and you lost weight in the OA rooms, I always kept track of you. So even when you were out, I was still thinking of you, Joe. I was wondering how you're doing, what you're doing. And I always said to myself, he's coming back sooner or later. I just know it because he's done it before. So at any rate, here I was. I've done. We've done many things to get many things. I did OptiFast. I use that because that was the most crowning success. I've done other things. I went from 490 to 199 in 13 months. I was their superstar. I was getting all positive feedback, and there's a boy, John, you must be really proud of yourself. And this was at the time when this clinic was going to close up. And the truth be said, I told him, I got honest. First time in my life when anybody, and I approve, I got honest, is really, you don't know how bad I feel. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I had no food program or anything. I still felt like crap. I said, hey, my excuse in life was, oh, I was morbidly obese. I don't have any more, so what to do? Well, what do you think I did after a bunch of strokes? I put all the weight back on. So here I am, desperate again. What happened? So I was going to go back to Optifast. For whatever reason, don't ask me why, I looked in the yellow pages in this weight reduction clinic downtown. And I called up, and the lady answered the phone. She was a psychologist of sorts, and she says she helps a lot of food addicts. She was a 12-step therapist, and she's in OA. And by the way, I knew there was something going on in OA because Dear Abby said it. If you know Dear Abby said it was all right, it was all right. And I said I was going to go back to Optifast. She says, John, that doesn't work. I said, yes, you're right, it doesn't. Why don't you come to me and we'll see what we can do. Well, I was so desperate at that time, I went to her. What happened? From that day on, basically something changed in me. And I figured out, I got desperate, I surrendered. The first time I ever started being honest with anybody in my life, the first time I just gave it up and got desperate. And whatever you told me back then, I was willing to do. That's how broken I was. So she came in there and she said, back around that time in my area, the rehab's really big, powerful in our area. They're all gone now. But at any rate, she wanted me to go to a place for us, but my insurance wouldn't accept it. She said, John, you better not go there. And she didn't particularly care for Glen Bay because they were stealing her patients she was sent to them and giving them to other therapists. And by the way, I'm not breaking any end in it because all those places are long gone. And so I didn't know. I didn't have a food plan. But the insanity with the food ended. That craziness at nighttime ended. I couldn't figure what was going on here. So she said, I was working here. What she said to me, John, what I need from you is a commitment that I'm going to make suggestions I need you to do. I expect you to do them. I need you to be honest with me, and I'm going to be honest with you. And if you're not willing to work, then you're wasting your time, your money, and you're wasting my time. I just did it. Whatever she asked me, I did it. Got to go to OA meetings. At least 3 times a week. Here's a list, pick out 3 and commit to them. And I said to myself, I didn't know what to expect. I figured you guys would laugh at me. Well, if I had to laugh at me, because that's what I'm used to back in the day. Because people, oh, there's the whale. And I really didn't expect, I was petrified. But I went, and it turned out to be very friendly. And then she put pressure on me, John, get a sponsor. And how I handled her for a bit, I said, there's not any male sponsor or woman sponsor. You don't want me to get a woman sponsor, do you? She said, all right. But then finally, this clown 12-stepped me, and I threw it away with his phone number. And then I looked at him. I said to myself, this guy's a Sharpie. He worked for Glen Bay. He was making money selling, he was thin. He was selling all his fatties. So he can sign it up to Glen Bay. That's what I thought. And so I went to a meeting. A dear friend of mine, she helped me out in the meeting. She said, John, hang around. I want you to hear this guy. He used to weigh over 400 pounds like you. I said, oh, all right. He finally showed up. And guess what? Whatever reason I went that Friday night, he was there. And I went up to him after the meeting. I started talking to him. God, it's so hard to get a sponsor, this and that. And he says, well, how come you didn't give me a call? Well, I lost your phone number. He said, Jack, you're full of shit. You threw it away. He's right. That became my first sponsor. but back in the day when I first came in, OA was different than it is now in my area. Everybody, it seemed like everybody was doing Acorn in OA back in the day. I mean, Glen Bay, I thought they were going to take over OA in my area because it just seemed so strong. But, but that went south. And so he became my sponsor, and this is what we do. So here I am, this young guy, he's my sponsor. And whatever he told me to do, I did. And back in the day, I was in Howe, and the old timers, or maybe new timers, they still do it, you had to answer a lot of questions. And that sort of introduced me to, literature and about us being a spiritual program. Because, I had to get a book. I had to get the big book, and I'm looking at the big book. Why am I got to read this stupid big book? I'm not an alcoholic. I have zero desire to drink. I wasted any calories on alcohol. I want the real stuff, which is food for me. And I started listening to it, and this guy doing it. They're just like me. I just do a different thing. And so, so I had a lot of success when I first came in. I took all the weight off. I had like 12 years back to back. What happened? Well, first, the rehab shut down. When they shut down, a house started to die. People started dropping out. I was still doing well. But here's the problem. I was one arrogant, you-know-what. I thought I was unique. John C. would never go out. I was invincible, even though I saw all my buddies go out. I kept track of all the guys that came in the rooms and what happened to them, especially when you come from big numbers. And the truth be said, the majority of them either left or died from morbid obesity. And I figured, I just said to myself, that ain't happened to me. Well, guess what? I got relapse. I was blessed that I didn't go up to 400 pounds again. I went up to 260. And the big lies, well, it could be worse. I only weighed 260, not 490. But what happened was, all of a sudden, the old John C. took over, right? Shame, disgust. And it sort of forced me, and I did a long battle in the OA rooms to get back in recovery. I've done many 90-90s. I've been to a lot of rehab. There's 5 days intensive, a weekend intensive, and I go in there and be abstinent. And I go home, like one time, a 5-day intensive in Pittsburgh with a bunch of women. I drove a bunch of women there, and I'm on my way home, and I said, well, it's late, I gotta stop and get dinner. And I got dinner, and what happened? Came with dessert, one of my favorite desserts. I didn't eat it, but I was so pissed off that I didn't eat that. So you know what I did when I got home? I spent a ton of money at a local Wawa store, and 7-Eleven store, try to make up for not eating it that quick. I went back. I got 6 months. I had a guy from Pittsburgh. I don't know if he's still in, but he did a lot of world service. He was doing Weight Watchers. Yeah, Weight Watchers. And I was doing Acorn. And he said, I understand what you guys do. You weigh measure. But he didn't have a clue what I was doing. I got sick one time, and I used that as an excuse to get something that clearly is not Acorn approved. Well, I'm sick. And when I did that, when I was dishonest with him, I went right back into the food. And that was my story. I worked another food plan, and I got 5 minutes. Okay. Well, let's put it this way. I had 8 years absence, and I got back on the relapse. My current absence is 3 years plus. I'm at my lowest ever in recovery. Just real quick, I've talked a lot about food and recovery that way. See, here's the deal. I put the food down. Once I put the food down, I have it gives me opportunity to start working other issues in my life. Because I'm abstinent, I'm able to work the steps. because of absence, honest with someone about my food. I can do an inventory with someone and be honest and let them know what I did. I've done a lot of steps. And let me tell you something, because a lot of times what always annoys me, people always talk about AA literature, that grade sheet literature's crap. I mean, not crap. I mean, OA literature's crap. Well, guess what? My first 4-step was on the OA step book. I used that 4-step as my format. And I shared, and I wrote down, basically it was my shame, everything I felt bad about, everything. Every dirty little secret, I wrote that down. I wasn't going to give it to my sponsor. I gave it to my therapist. She forced me to read it. And what did I get out of it? That's probably one of the most important things I did in my life, because it opened me up. It truly opened me up. It gave me the opportunity to grow, to be more honest with people. And that led to a lot of things. I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't do that. I can tell you right now, because I couldn't deal with this. And that's what I did. Down the line, I was absent. I went to an AA convention one time, and these guys didn't fool around. They're old school. Old school. They did it like the original people did it. This guy 12-stepped me, and I was pissed off. I said, I'm not an alcoholic. I wanted to go home. I wanted to get out of here. He asked me to stick around. I did it. And he 12-stepped me to do it. I says, because I'm absent. I says, you know what? I think God's giving me a little sense of direction. I think God's trying to tell me something. So I did it. It was very intensive. I went to his home meeting, which was an hour and a half away from where I lived. Every Friday night, I bring out my book, and he wanted to see my writings. And he would, yep. He asked me a question. I used to joke with him. Can I get a gold star once in a while? That's what I used to like to get back at grade school, and he would laugh. And I did it. I would have done it unless I was absent. So that's where I come from. I guess I'm pretty close to 20 minutes now. So all I'm going to say is, first things first, I have to deal with the food, and I've done this, and that leads to other things like the steps, all other stuff that we need to do to stay in recovery. And with that, I'm going to pass.